Hello and welcome to the Sound of Science. Today I want to speak about the second part of the paper recently published on SARS-CoV-2 vaccines in development by Florian Kramer, published in Nature on September 2020. And today I want to focus on the differences between vaccinations and infections with respect to the effects on the kind of immune response that is being generated. So as you can see here on the screen now, there are several antibody types that are being produced during pathogen infection or following vaccinations. And although there are several types of immunoglobulins, which are the molecules that are being produced by the immune response to fight off those pathogens, I want to focus on three of those that are relevant to our topic. And as you can see here on the left side, this is an immunoglobulin called IgM. This is an immunoglobulin called IgG, and this is an immunoglobulin called IgA. And what are the differences between them? We will find antibodies of the type of IgM and IgG secreted to the blood, whereas an antibody of the type of IgA will be secreted to the mucus layer in the upper respiratory system. So when we ask ourselves what kind of antibodies are being produced after an infection or following a vaccination, we can typically expect to find something like this. We will have an increase in the production of an antibody called IgM. You can see it here again. It's actually an antibody that is comprised of 5 subunits, and it's characterized by a relatively lower affinity to its target, to its protein on the virus or on the bacteria. Following the production of IgM, we can see production of IgG. It's this antibody. And what is the difference? It's a smaller antibody with a higher affinity, and importantly, it lasts longer in the circulation. And also we can see production of IgA, which is the antibody that is not being released to the bloodstream, but it is rather being released to the mucus layer that protects our respiratory system from outside invaders such as viruses. And of course, of our interest, of the coronavirus. And so what happens after a viral infection? So if we're exposed to a viral infection, particularly of viruses that infect the respiratory system, we can expect them to infect our upper respiratory airways and subsequently the lower respiratory airways. And indeed, if we measure the type of antibodies and the amounts of antibodies that are being produced, we can see that in the upper respiratory system, we mostly see an IgA being produced by the immune response. And in the circulation, we will see, the blood circulation, we will see IgG. However, when we compare that to the type of immunity that we receive following an intramuscular injection of a vaccine, for example, such as the vaccines being produced by Pfizer and Moderna, we can see that most of the antibody response is IgG, which is being released to the circulation, to the blood circulation, and we don't see an IgA response in the mucus layer. And we will speak about what's the difference and what's the importance of that. Another class of vaccinations that is not being currently deployed to fight the corona is intranasal vaccinations. And intranasal vaccinations, which as they sound, are vaccinations that are administered through our nose, the breathing system. They generate a high level of IgA, which is being secreted to the mucus layer, and relatively lower levels of IgG in the blood stream. And if we will compare now these three exposure routes of the immune system, we will see that a viral infection results in production of IgA in the upper respiratory system, which is present in the mucus layer. as well as IgG in the circulation in the blood. Intramuscular vaccine, as the type of vaccines that most individuals are now being vaccinated with, generates high levels of IgG antibodies in the bloodstream, whereas potentially developed intranasal vaccinations are expected to generate IgA responses in the mucus of the upper respiratory system and lower levels of IgG in the blood circulation. Okay, so what does that mean for us with respect to the immunization level that we will have after vaccination? Well, what it means is that while having a lot of IgG in the bloodstream is a good thing, it will not prevent penetrance of viral particles through the mucus layer of our upper respiratory system. Whereas in the future, it is possible that a combined vaccination of an intranasal vaccination as well as an intramuscular vaccination will enable us to have both a high level of IgA in the mucus layer as well as a high level of IgG in the circulation. But right now, vaccination with one of the mRNA vaccines that are injected to the muscle will probably allow us to have a high antibody level in the blood that will allow us a better coping with the invading pathogens rather than completely ablate their entrance through the mucosal layers on the upper respiratory system, which is the known route for their penetrance in the body. That will be it for today, and until the next video, stay safe.